Yes, I did it. I did it. And I know that recently I was not the only one, but I finally did it. I switched to Lumix, and ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I'm loving it. Now, without further ado, let me tell you the purpose of this video. This is me telling you guys, potential switchers, right, my experience with the system. Because before I actually switched to Lumix, I have never ever used the Lumix camera. So everything right now that is happening is just brand new. I'm gonna tell you everything I like about the system and all the quirks and the negatives about the system as well, which truly, by the way, they're not a lot at all. But before all of that, just a little backstory. I'm not gonna tell you my life story, but let me tell you about the system that I used prior to Lumix. I used to be a Sony user. I've been a Sony user for like 3 to 4 years. I think 3 years. I had the Sony a7 IV, and that was the hybrid option that they had. And me, as a photographer, videographer, it made sense to own the a7 IV. And even though like I wanted to make more motion picture, like I want to lean more towards videography, but at that time, I did both. So I kept my a7 IV, and I was waiting honestly for the a7 V, which, you know, has been released lately. But back then I was waiting desperately for the a7 V because I wanted to get another body. And then I stumbled on the Lumix S1 II. And ladies and gentlemen, like, as they say, the rest is history. Alright, so right off the bat, right away, I noticed that the ergonomics of the camera is just amazing. It's thick and grippable. Like, I can grip it with my 4 fingers and I'm comfortable, which is awesome compared to my Sony. It's giving me like DSLR vibes in a way, even though like the body is kind of small. Like, it's comparable to any other mirrorless body. Like, they had in the previous generations, they had bigger bodies, but these ones, like the recent ones, they're kind of small, but the grip itself, it's way better than Sony. Now we have to talk about this feature that I already knew about before even using the brand. As a handheld shooter, as a guy, as a dude that loves shooting handheld, I knew that I'm gonna appreciate that feature. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm talking about right now. This brand is something else when it comes to stabilization. If there's like things that brands would be popular for, you know, like for example, we all know that Sony, for example, is really good with autofocus, that, you know, it's a class leading when it comes to autofocus. If we're gonna talk about Lumix, safe to say, yes, I did not use all camera brands in the market, I understand, but like, just trust me, you know, safe to say, Lumix is a class leading when it comes to stabilization. And I don't want to be exaggerating anything, honestly, but if I'm gonna compare my experience with Lumix to Sony in terms of stabilization, truly it's something else. So shooting with this brand, and they have different levels of electronic stabilization, if you went to the highest setting, I promise you, I kid you not, it feels like you're shooting with a gimbal. And I know that it might seem ridiculous, but it's true. It's true. I used the high setting during weddings, during the send-off, after the ceremony, where like the couples are just walking out, and it was just crazy. Like, it was literally crazy. Like, I was moving like crazy, and it was super stable without even adding any stabilization in post. So the stabilization of this brand is just literally something else, and I'm loving and enjoying every second of it. At this point, honestly, like, I'm not gonna talk about Lumix in general. I'm gonna have to actually mention the S1 II, because, alright guys, let me tell you something. I came, you know, originally from DSLRs, right? As a photographer, I used the viewfinder a lot, right? Ever since I got my first mirrorless, which was like the Sony, honestly, I did not use that viewfinder at all, or like the EVF at all, because it was super bad. I used the LCD instead. But ever since I got this one, the EVF and the LCD, both of them are way better. Like, I've been using the electronic viewfinder if I'm doing photography all the time, unless I'm doing like different angles or like, you know, lower angles or like high angles, I would use the, you know, the LCD. But both of them are really good. They're so bright, and it makes you want to use the camera even more. It might feel simple or stupid, but honestly, I love the button distribution on this camera. They have buttons for everything, like literally everything, right? And the thing is, the distribution just feels right. Every button is at the right place. The recent bodies, they have 2 record buttons, which is awesome. The old bodies won't, but like, Again, all the other buttons, they're just placed correctly at the right place. I love the fact that they do have the autofocus modes like the S, the C, the MF outside in like a switch type situation, which is way better than just, you know, to dig deep in the menus to actually change that. And also on that dial, on the front dial, they have like 5 customizable modes, which is awesome given the amount of video codecs that this camera has. Now, this point might be a little bit subjective, but honestly, I have no idea how or like what is going on, but the image quality coming out from these bodies are just something else. I don't know how to explain it. The colors just feel nicer, richer, and at the same time, it's just neutral, no color shift whatsoever. The camera feels natural in a way, filmic, if you will, even though like I can't really put my hand on like why or whatever. But all in all, when I switched and I started using the camera with the first lens that I got, which was, by the way, it wasn't a prime or anything, but the picture right away from the screen felt different. So you do with that what you will. And then we got a hot topic right now in the YouTube scene, and I'm gonna have to mention it, like I'm gonna have to talk about it. I'm not gonna dig deep into it, but I'm gonna have to talk about it because it's something that actually Lumix is famous for, which is open gate. And for you guys who don't know what's open gate, so open gate basically means that you can use the full sensor, take a full sensor readout when you're filming. Because usually if you're gonna do video in any other camera or like phone or whatever, you're gonna have the 16:9 dimension, right? But with open gate, you're using your full sensor. So imagine taking a photo, right? And then filming yourself open gate, you're gonna have the same dimensions in a way. You're using the entirety of your sensor. And that's something that Lumix has. Honestly, I did not have open gate before, and I was not complaining. My Sony did not have open gate, and it was not a problem. But ever since I started using that feature more, I started to appreciate it even more. And that's a good segue to talk about anamorphic. This camera is really anamorphic friendly. I do believe it's literally the best brand if you want to shoot or like film using anamorphic lenses, because not only has open gate, it has this squeeze options for all the ratios possible, so you're going to be able to actually film comfortably, of course without using any external LCD or like external monitor, right? Number 2, it has all the stabilization options for all the ratios as well. So whatever lens with whatever de-squeeze ratio that you have, you're going to be able to de-squeeze it on your camera without an external monitor, and you're going to be able to stabilize the footage as well. And since I mentioned that it's anamorphic friendly, safe to say it's RAW friendly, right? So coming from the Sony, which by the way, like the A7 IV, the S1 II, even though it's more expensive, I understand, but they're both hybrid cameras. Like the S1 II is not a cinema camera, but anyways, it's RAW friendly. And okay, I'm not gonna even talk about the S1 II in general. I'm gonna talk about the Lumix, right? They do shoot RAW, whether externally or internally based on the model, but they shoot RAW, ProRes RAW and B-RAW. And when you shoot B-RAW externally, they do share the metadata with the HDMI, so you're having full control on your DaVinci, for example. Something that means a lot to me, honestly, and it's not like a feature or like a quirk or like whatever, it's that Lumix, they do listen. It's actually a company that listens to their users, and this is precious. And it's one of the most serious companies ever in terms of firmware updates. You can get a Lumix camera and know that the company will take care of this camera for a long time. And their updates, they're not like, you know, fixing some bugs here and there. No, they do listen to the users and then introduce solutions and features that the people actually asked for. Also, and it might seem silly, but like when I switched to Lumix, I started searching for like Lumix groups on Facebook, right? So I can join the communities over there. And let me tell you guys, like it was super friendly, it was super positive, people there are helping each other. And I noticed that like big YouTubers, Lumix YouTubers for example, are in those groups just, you know, commenting on people posts and helping people out. And I saw product developers from the company itself in those groups replying back to people. So it feels like whoever you are, if you have a complaint, if you have any suggestion, whatever that is, you're gonna be heard. Now, on the other hand, let's talk about things that I really, you know, did not vibe with or like I'm trying to get used to. The brand in general suffers from HDMI latency. So if you're gonna use your Lumix camera with an external monitor, there's some sort of a lag. It is something that you should know about, and even though there's like a way to mitigate the problem or like make it better, but still latency will exist. And coming from Sony, that was super weird, honestly, because this problem was never there in Sony. It never existed, and I never knew that there was something called HDMI latency, honestly. But just for you, either potential switchers or newly Lumix users, the thing that you should do to decrease the HDMI latency is through the settings menu, go to HDMI rec output and click on it, and then go to sound output HDMI and then just turn it to off. This, in a way, will decrease the latency. Another thing that I noticed, honestly, with Lumix, that they don't play well with flash. So in general, you're gonna have like a lot of brands of flashes to choose from, right? But in Lumix's case, you have no option but Godox. It's the only company that makes flashes compatible with Lumix's hot shoe, right? And don't get me wrong, it's a really good company. That was the same company that I was invested in when I had my Sony. But it's just something that I have to say, that you're not gonna have any options. And even like Panasonic themselves, I think they stopped manufacturing flashes. And honestly, there are like some quirks using flashes. It's not gonna work right away. Like, you're gonna have to actually play with it a little bit to get used to it. But don't worry, I'm a wedding photographer and I've shot using flashes a lot, and there are things that you could do to actually have like a seamless, easy experience. But I'm not gonna dig deep in this video. I'm just letting you know it's not like your Sony / Canon / Nikon even experience using a flash. Last but not least, something, it's really silly honestly, but it's something that I noticed and I wanted just to mention it, right? The auto white balance works great, right? Works perfectly, honestly. It's not as fast. So I noticed that, for example, like right now I'm outside shooting a couple, right? And I have my camera just, you know, looking down to the ground, right? Because I'm talking to the couple, and then later I'm gonna do this and actually shoot, right? So right now the camera has been looking down and looking at the grass, right? So the grass is green. Okay, so when I do this and I actually put my camera on the couple, the screen is kind of purple, you know, because it was looking at the greens and it was combating the greens, so it was like purple. So when I do that, it takes like a couple of seconds until it actually realizes like what's going on and then shifts. So I noticed that with the S1 too. So, and that's like their recent release in a way. So that doesn't mean that it has bad white balance, because no, it's really good and it never miss, but it's kind of slow, little bit slower when you change from an environment to another, or like a scenery to another. It takes like a second or something to actually change and adapt. But yeah, these are the things that I noticed in the short time that I've been using Lumix. It's not a review or anything, it's just my experience so far with the brand. I've been loving it. I've been loving the whole thing, using the cameras, using the system. It's pretty affordable as well, so I can't really complain about any of these things. Oh, and have I mentioned, you can actually shoot and film externally to an SSD. So if you have an external SSD, you can directly film to it. So if you want to use your RAW option, I know how big the files can be, you can shoot to your SSD or even your CF Express Type B. It doesn't matter. I was kind of scared before really switching to Lumix, because as I said before, like I've never used any Lumix camera before. But my god, it's a great camera, it's a great system. And also, one last thing, if you're afraid about like the lens selection, yes, it's true. Statistically, Sony, they do have more lens selection on paper, but right now, like right now, not 2 years ago, not a year ago, right now, with the L-mount Alliance, you have enough lenses to use. You, as a potential switcher, don't be afraid. Right now, I do have what I need, either from Lumix or Sigma or any member of the Alliance. So yeah, this is my experience. Let me know if you have any questions, especially for those who are considering switching. Just let me know if you have any question about it. Just drop me a comment in the comments section below or shoot me a message and I'll answer you. And until then, I'll see you next time.